Before we begin, kindly like this video, comment where you're watching from, and tell us what you think about today's story. Ejiro was 32 years old and had never known freedom. She lived in a sun-scorched village in Delta State, where the weight of poverty hung heavier than the midday heat. As the first daughter in a family of 7, Ejiro wasn't just a child, she was an investment. Her mother, Mama Agba, never let her forget that. "Your womb is not for love," Mama Agba would hiss. "It's for planting money. Just look at Ndidi's daughter, the one who married that old senator. She built a mansion, sent her brothers abroad. And you? Still patching our roof with palm fronds. Shame on you." Ejiro bit her tongue and endured. Every day, she sat in the market with her tomatoes, the sun turning her skin the color of roasted groundnut. At night, she stitched blouses with eyes barely open. When that didn't work, she went with men to cheap lodges in Warwick, all in the name of survival. Marriage. That was a luxury Mama Agba couldn't afford. "Did we send you to school to end up in a man's kitchen?" she would snap. "Bring us wealth first. Then you can marry your love." Inside, something began to rot. Bitterness. Envy. Especially toward her old friend, Onom, who changed cars like clothes and smelled of imported perfume. Villagers adored Onom. They greeted her like royalty and whispered when Ejiro walked past like she was cursed. Ejiro had had enough. One night, under a moon as bright as fire, she wandered to the outskirts of the village. That was where Mama Onota lived, the blind seer. People said she could talk to the earth. They said the wind obeyed her. Ejiro knelt before the old woman. "I need wealth. Real wealth. Not dreams." Mama Onota tilted her cloudy eyes toward her. "Then go to Unthinkable. Deep in the forest. Ask no questions. Follow the sound of cracking wood." That very night, with her heart hammering like war drums, Ejiro entered the thick woods. The deeper she went, the thicker the silence. Until she heard it. Crack. She followed the sound. A clearing opened. A mud house stood there, tied with raffia, cowries hanging like curse chimes. A man sat outside, skin dark as charcoal, eyes burning. "You are the first daughter," he said, as if he'd always known. "You want wealth. Then listen. You will bear children. But plant their placentas with seeds. Each tree will feed your wealth. But when the child turns 7, they must return to the earth. Do not mourn. Do not speak. If you cry, your riches will rot." That night, the ground accepted her vow. 2 months later, Ejiro returned with a plan, and her first target, Baba Okon. 72, widowed, and wealthy with riverside land. Within weeks, she married him. 9 months later, she gave birth to a boy. That same night, as Baba Okon snored in joy, Ejiro buried the placenta in the earth, mixed with bean seeds, and whispered, "Grow well. Feed me." 3 days later, the beans sprouted unnaturally fast. Her business exploded. She made more in 2 weeks than she had in 2 years. But when her son turned 7, he whispered, "Mama, the tree is crying." Then came the fever. And by dawn, he was gone. Ejiro did not cry. The ground had fed her. And it was hungry again. After Olochi's burial, the village could barely keep up with Eagle's glow-up. People whispered that she was the perfect balance of beauty and tragedy. Her boutique now catered to Abuja's finest. Politicians' wives came in SUVs, and Lagos Instagram influencers tagged her in photos wearing her imported lace and Ankara collections. But deep inside, Eagle was haunted. She often heard children's laughter in the night, and not from the compound. No, this laughter echoed under the floorboards. Sometimes the tomatoes behind her house would twitch at dawn, like something beneath them had exhaled. Ego pretended not to notice. She told herself she had done what was necessary. She had planted. She had watered. She had obeyed. But what she didn't know was that someone else had started to ask questions. In another part of the village, Mama Onkota, the old woman with eyes like clouded mirrors, began having dreams. In the first one, the earth screamed. In the second, a girl with bright eyes and black braids dragged a small coffin through red mud, whispering, "I am not finished." By the third dream, Mama Onkota saw a tree blooming with eyes. Watching. Waiting. She woke up drenched in sweat and muttered, "She broke the rule. The seed has become root." Meanwhile, Igor was pregnant again. She hadn't even told Toby, the rich Igbo businessman she met on her Dubai trip. He was already talking marriage, but Igor didn't need another husband. What she needed was the third planting. This child, she whispered to herself as she rubbed her belly one morning, will be the one. With this one, I'll build a hotel in Asaba. No more boutique. I'll be among the elites. But the pregnancy felt different. Strange things began to happen. At 5 months, she started bleeding, but every scan said the baby was fine. One night, she woke up and found muddy footprints all over her tiled floor, but the doors were locked from inside. At 7 months, her dog, Bruno, began barking at the backyard soil and refused to eat. 3 days later, it died, eyes wide open, facing the buried tomatoes. The final straw came when Igor found Olochi's drawing book under her bed. She had burned it after the funeral, she was sure. But there it was, untouched, and now containing new drawings. Stick figures weeping. A woman with a baby, buried beneath a tree. And next to it, Igor, standing, arms full of cash, but her face melting like wax. She screamed. She burned it again, this time outside, and watched until it turned to ash. Weeks passed. The baby arrived. It was a boy. Quiet. Too quiet. He didn't cry. Didn't move much. His eyes stayed open the entire time, staring at Igor like he knew everything. The midwife muttered, "This one no dey like normal baby oh." Igor didn't respond. She was already wrapping the placenta in cloth and heading to the backyard. But as she dug the soil, she noticed it was already open. Disturbed. Dug up. The tomatoes were missing. The beans too. Suddenly, a voice behind her. "I've been watching." She turned sharply. It was Uchechi, her neighbor's daughter, just 10 years old, barefoot, her dress soaked in rain. She stared at Igor with wide eyes and whispered, "I saw you, when you planted the last one. I told my mommy. She told the pastor. And the pastor is coming tomorrow." Igor's heart dropped. Thunder cracked across the sky. The baby in her arms gurgled and let out the first sound since birth, a laugh. Deep. Too deep. Suddenly the ground rumbled beneath her feet. From the disturbed earth, red vines shot up, wrapping around her legs. She screamed. The baby laughed louder. Next morning, Igor awoke in a daze, her legs still sore from the vines that had wrapped around them in the night. She told herself it was a nightmare. A hallucination. Maybe she was tired. Maybe the stress was getting to her. But when she checked the backyard, the soil was disturbed. The placenta she meant to bury was still in the cloth in her drawer. And the tomatoes were gone. Gone like they were never planted. Worse still, Uchechi, the neighbor's daughter, hadn't lied. By noon, the entire street buzzed with tension. "Mama Igor, not true say them they dig for back of your house. I see Pastor Emmanuel entering with holy oil. I know say that her boutique money get as he be." And then, just like prophecy, he came. Pastor Emmanuel of the Fire Rain Ministry wasn't just respected. He was feared. The kind of man whose prayers could make stubborn shrines catch fire. The kind whose shadow was said to make witches tremble. He arrived that afternoon with 5 prayer warriors, drums, and anointing oil. No one told him where the backyard was, he went straight to it. Ego, standing at her boutique in the front compound, froze when she saw them disappear behind the house. Within minutes, they began to chant. Fire, Holy Ghost fire. Fire, break every chain. Fire, whatever is buried that is not of God, we dig it out. The villagers gathered like bees. Some climbed trees. Others stood on top of cars. Ego's hands trembled. Then came the first scream. One of the prayer warriors dropped to the floor, convulsing. Another began to speak in tongues, crawling on the ground like a baby goat. And then the pastor himself shouted, "Blood! There is blood crying from this ground." The crowd gasped. Ego turned slowly and began walking back into her boutique, locking the door behind her. By nightfall, news had spread beyond the village. Calls came in from journalists in Asaba. Facebook live videos showed hundreds gathering around Ego's gate. No blood money. No jazz. She buried her children for wealth. But she refused to respond. She stayed silent, sitting in her boutique office, watching her baby sleep. Until the knock came. It was gentle, but she recognized the rhythm. Tap. Tap. Pause. Tap. Unthinkable. She opened the back door and saw him, just like in her dreams. Clay-colored skin, cowrie necklace, and red eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "I warned you," he said, stepping in. "The earth does not forget." "I didn't mourn. I didn't cry," Ego replied desperately. "You forgot one thing," he said, pointing at the child in the cradle. "He didn't choose this. He came with a different spirit." Ego's lips parted. "What do you mean?" Unthinkable leaned in, voice low and sharp. "This boy isn't yours." "What?" "He belongs to the soil now. And you didn't feed the soil." Ego's knees buckled. "I was about to. I just..." "You hesitated." And in that moment, someone else fed it. Suddenly, Ego remembered the disturbed soil. The missing tomatoes. The vines. Uchechi. She gasped. Uchechi's mother, she. Yes, Unthinkable nodded. She planted something else. Something wicked. Cut to the next morning, the entire village in chaos. Uchechi was missing. Her mother collapsed at the village square, wailing, "My daughter. She walked into the backyard last night and never came back." But Ego knew. She remembered the girl's eyes, the mud on her feet, the whisper in the night, "He says the tree is waiting." The pastor returned the next day, but this time with a warning. "There is a covenant here," he told the villagers. "And unless it is broken, this land will continue to drink." One elder, shaking with fear, said softly, "It started with her, but it might not end with her." Ego, now a prisoner in her own mansion, sat by the window staring at the baby in his crib, who now cried only at night, under moonlight, and only when no one else could hear. Then the vines began to return, inside the house. The baby was gone. Ego had woken up before dawn, drenched in sweat again, heart thudding, only to find the cradle empty. No cries. No noise. Nothing. But the door was locked. The windows, sealed. No signs of breaking. Only the faint scent of tomatoes, ripe and sour, lingering in the air like death in disguise. She screamed. Neighbors rushed in. "He's not here. My baby is gone." Ego wailed, her wrapper slipping from her waist. The crowd murmured. The last child. She done finally bury this one too. God punish poverty that makes women do this kind thing. But Pastor Emmanuel, who had stood watching silently, stepped forward. "No, she didn't bury this one," he said grimly. "This one buried himself." Gasps rippled. "What do you mean?" Ego croaked, her face pale. The pastor turned slowly. The covenant is broken. The soil is no longer under your control. It has taken what it wants. Meanwhile, deep beneath the ground behind Ego's boutique, the roots moved. Yes, actual, living roots. Gnarled and twisted, thick as a man's arm, curling around something small, something soft, and still breathing. The earth wasn't silent anymore. It whispered. Loud and strange. Returned the others. That same day, chaos erupted in the village. The governor of Delta State had caught wind of the viral story. Human rights activists flooded the scene. Police arrived. The boutique was sealed off. The farmlands cordoned. A shallow grave was discovered. A child's bracelet. Fragments of cloth stained with something dark and dry. Ego was arrested. She didn't struggle. Didn't speak. She just stared ahead, whispering something to herself again and again. I did what I was told. I didn't mourn. I didn't cry. I obeyed. At the police station in Warri, Ego refused food. Refused lawyers. She just rocked back and forth, holding an invisible child in her arms, humming lullabies to the air. Until a female officer came to drop her water and noticed something strange, a trail of red ants crawling up the walls of the cell, carrying pieces of thread, cowries, even soil. By the time she called for backup, Ego had vanished. No broken locks. No tunnels. Just mud where she sat. Now, 2 months have passed. Strange things are happening across the village. The boutique, now abandoned, blooms with blood-colored flowers no one planted. Customers who once shopped there have all fallen ill, unexplained fever, hallucinations, children screaming in their sleep. And at night, some say they hear babies crying from underground. But the most chilling part. Children keep disappearing. Not all at once, but slowly. Silently. Always after wandering near Ego's old farm. Some believe Ego is still alive. That she was taken by the earth as payment. That her final baby, the quiet one, now walks the village at night barefoot, searching for something. They say if you see him, don't speak. Don't ask him questions. Don't follow him. And never look directly into his eyes. Because if you do, you'll hear a whisper. A voice that says, "The soil remembers."